Yeah. See, my purpose of sharing this short presentation is to understand scaling up. Normally, we always come with the question that people compare farming with the mobile phones. When mobile phones come in, everybody in the village has mobile phones. Nobody taught them to use it. Nobody transferred any knowledge to community knowledge. They're all over. Why not, if the technology is good, why not it can be scaled up? So there is intrinsically there is a problem of the technology. This is consistently we came across. If you look at SRI or if you look at natural farming, organic farming, consistently come across with the same. So my endeavor in this before slides is to understand this process and then place before you the need, where do we invest. So green revolution, if you look at that, may have started with that. It's a fantastic architecture. So before the green revolution, there was nothing that the support systems exist. There were no fertilizer factories. There were no FCIs. There is no minimum support price. There is no priority sector credit. Probably it will be there in this thing. There's no entire seed system. So the whole thing is created for green revolution. So no, it's not that just one technology of seeds brought green revolution. So along with the technology of seeds, fertilizers, chemicals, the whole architecture of where do you store the produce, how do you support the assured farmers of the price, and then what kind of machine do you bring in, what kind of credit system you. So the whole elements of support system would be built, and then they're brought into actually changing the paradigm. Next, please. So it actually in the I'm a student of studying technological change. What is it called? No, it sets a technology trajectory. So from a kind of subsistence farming where droughts, risk, food shortages, dependence on fuel poverty, weak positioning in the international market, that kind of a status. So the need for having a national food security is set in. The technology trajectory is set in, which is primarily built around productivity. And productivity coming from input responsiveness. That input responsiveness is of chemical inputs. So the whole purpose of it is generate surplus in a well-endowed areas, and then the surplus can be mopped up and distributed all over rest of the country. So this is a kind of a paradigm shift that actually what green revolution is. So if you look at all the research, incentives, markets, industry, private, public, everything work towards this technology trajectory, where everything is around inputs, everything around responsiveness, everything is around productivity, but all the rest of the questions are subsidiary, are not part of this paradigm. So the point that I'm making is, so there is a technology trajectory sets in, and the entire elements of the support system move towards that. This is what green revolution has achieved. Next, please. So now the green revolution has intrinsic problems. It has lived out of page, and then lots of, like Meher said, the farmers' protest is primarily an offshoot of the green revolution. So we want a different pathway. So how does this pathway come into picture? So what is this pathway? Meher is saying that we are at a tipping point. So we need to understand how you actually engage in this pathway, and then how you actually steer the pathways. So primary difference between these two pathways are, green revolution and a national farming paradigm, are that in the green revolution, entire technology is embedded into inputs. Technology transmission is basically taking a seed to the farmer, taking a fertilizer to the farmer, taking a pesticide to the farmer. So entire technology is embedded into inputs, and then the extension system is created to take technology along with this inputs to the farmers. But if you look at the national farming, all the case studies that you have seen, there is no input, there is no carrier of the technology. The technology is embedded, is disembodied into the input. Earlier, green revolution is embedded technology. These are disembodied technology. So here, innovations are coming from the farmers, innovations coming from various local niches. And in the green revolution, there is a champion. The government is a champion driving at the national food security, and industry has created lots of their own champions. The fertilizer industry, seed industry, all input industries prosper in agriculture while farmers suffer. But in the green revolution thing, it's completely different. who will champion natural farming? So new configurations need to emerge. So all the boxes that are there around the green revolution thing, the fertilizer transport, everything is in a paradigmatic principles. The productivity, high rate of higher input response, and all that. Everything is around that, and surplus generation, mopping up the surplus, and all that. But if you move to the natural farming, this is localized, decentralized, and then what kind of support systems are needed? What kind of credit systems are needed? What kind of energy systems are needed? What kind of seeds are needed for this thing? Like no, we find traditional varieties are actually, land race is actually giving much larger response in natural farming. So you need to actually fill in those boxes if you want to move towards a new paradigm. Next, please. So the green revolution has what is called an exhaustion of the paradigm. So the soils are exhausted. The climate change brought in a lot of vulnerabilities. A lot of farmers distress. 300,000 farmers from Texas said there is technology fatigue. The fertilizer use efficiency has come down to 1/3. 1 kg of fertilizer used to give X amount of productivity. It has now you have to use some 7 kgs of fertilizer to get the same productivity. So you remember fertilizer subsidy is 80,000 crores. With 80,000 crores investment, your efficiency has gone down to 1/3. Then imagine the kind of exhaustion of the technology itself is created. So while that is there, on the other side, a lot of niche innovations are coming up. There is SRA, there is ZBNF, there is participatory guarantee system of certification, there is organic farming, conservation agriculture, PMDS, and Government of India came up with a project on BPKP. So several actors are now talking about it in several niche areas. 1,000 flowers that Mayor is saying. So there are lots of small enterprises coming up. In Hyderabad, in the places I live, within 1 kilometer, there are 10 cold press oil mills in the city. They buy raw material from there and then press the oil and give you. And there are 10 millet shops. So urban consumers are demanding these products. There is a consumer orientation coming up. I see all over. Small shops are coming up. So a lot of niche areas, niche innovations are coming up. Then how do you actually set in the technology trajectory? So the mainstream, normally in any technological change, there is an inertia of old socio-institutional framework. This is called the paradigm paralysis. So between shift from one paradigm to another, there is a group that actually create this paralysis, which is anchored into the interests of the old paradigm, doesn't allow the old paradigm to be dismantled towards a new paradigm. Typical resistance from the science establishment, because natural farming related science is complex. Then the traditional tools of science are not actually geared towards understanding the natural farming complexities. Then there is a resistance from the science. There is a resistance from industry, political resistance also. So how do you actually overcome these paradigm paralysis? And how do you actually set new configurations into place? Regeneration, climate risk, climate risk, building up ecosystem services, not the inputs, substitute ecosystem services, substituting the inputs, sustainability, knowledge intensity, decentralization, diversity, and all these things. How you actually, these are the principles of a new paradigm. How you actually set that into motion, different players, taking this kind of a technological trajectory and come out with innovations, all the niche innovations flowing towards one particular direction. This is where we are looking at. This is where now, as Mihir saying, then we are at a tipping point. If you look at organic farming earlier or the SRA, everything actually created a lot of buzz, but never reached a mass of cumulative mass that actually created a tipping point. That has actually showing a promise to the community, to the politicians, to the industry people, and to the farmers, that we can change to a new paradigm. So that is an opportunity that is waiting now. Next, please. Yeah, this is the last one. So now my request for all the donor community is to see that this natural farming transition is not like a mobile phone. It's not like a technology. It's not like a new seed. It's not like a one new method. It's an amalgamation of several small innovations. It has to be multi-stakeholder engagement. The small traders need to be engaged with this thing. Implement manufacturers need to engage with natural farming, because natural farming creates new agronomy. New agronomy creates new implements. So all the tractors, everything are large implements that are meant for tilling the soil. But here we are moving away from tillage, less and less tillage. Then you need to set up, you need to have a different set of industry which is actually manufacturing no-till implements, which are manufacturing weeding in a very complex kind of a diversified crop systems. Now all the monocropping is engineered by the ease of moving into mechanization. The mechanization drove monocropping. Now we are moving towards diversification, and this mechanization will be sort of anti-diversification. Then how you deal with it? There must be innovations coming up in the industry, in the science establishment, in small innovators who manufacture tools and equipment for the natural farming. So lots of such innovations should come up, should actually gather momentum and gather mass together to move to a new technology direction where national farming becomes the new paradigm. And it's a new paradigm, then everybody works in that paradigm. Working in that paradigm means there is a governing principles. Productivity will no longer be the governing principles of a new paradigm. The diversity will be a new paradigm. Climate change, addressing climate change issues, the carbon sequestration, all that we are talking in this thing will be the principles of new paradigm, which actually govern the way the scientists work, which actually govern the way the industry works, the traders work, the market systems. Market systems are designed for single commodity large volumes, and very very narrow kind of this thing. You need to have one single. Everything should look a single way. You have Sortex missions to remove all the diversity and make everything look alike. But that doesn't work in national farming. You need to have diversity. You need to engage with the farmers and their mental attitude of looking at diverse grains to be. When you go and pick up a packet, you should not look for one single glossy kind of a material. You should look for diverse wrinkled kind of a material. That is an engagement that we need to have with the consumer. Without that, this will not go. So I think a lot of such engagement need to come in. So the need now for the donor community is to support these niche innovations across board, across different sectors. And all the niche innovations should have a common directive principles that move towards a new paradigm. I think this is the opportunistic stage where we are in. We are at a tipping point. Nowhere in the history, in the last 60 years, we were at such a stage where masses are with us, large number of farmers are with us, government is with us, bureaucracy is with us, but we need to make it happen because these niche innovations have to come in place. So this is what my urge to the donor. Thank you.